Fitness Business Podcast Snapshot. Robbie shares insights into what's changed in membership business models over the past 5 years. We discuss the effect that subscription model businesses like Peloton and Mirror have on a traditional membership business. And Robbie tells us how a membership business can stay relevant into the future. All of that and more coming up in today's show. Welcome to the industry's leading business podcast for fitness owners and managers. This month's interviews are brought to you by our podcast partner, Tribe Team Training, the world-class leaders in small group training experiences. Earn unprecedented profit, gain guaranteed results for your members, and ensure the very best small group training education for your coaches. Contact Tribe Team Training today and have a conversation to see just how much opportunity there is at your fitness facility. Go to tribeteamtraining.com or click on the link in today's show notes. Welcome to you all, and thank you so much for joining me for this week's show. My special guest today is Robbie Kellman Baxter. Robbie is a best-selling author, speaker, and consultant with more than 20 years of experience providing strategic business advice to major organizations, including Netflix, Consumer Reports, and LinkedIn, as well as leaders in industries including software as a service, media, retail, consumer products, healthcare, financial services, and hardware. In the past 10 years, her company, Peninsula Strategies, has advised over 100 organizations on subscription and growth strategy. Robbie has been featured in the Wall Street Journal and CNN, and she's been interviewed on over 50 podcasts, including this one back in 2017. My interview with Robbie Kellman Baxter is coming up in less than 60 seconds time. But first, here's a message from our podcast partner, Tribe Team Training. Tribe Team Training is a proven turnkey standalone profit center for your fitness business. To find out more, go to tribeteamtraining.com or click on the link in today's show notes. Enjoy this week's interview with my special guest, Robbie Kellman Baxter. Robbie, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us on the show again.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be back.
Now, as I mentioned to the FBP family up front, we first had you on the show way back when we first started in 2015. So I thought the perfect place for us to start today was to have a look at what's actually changed when it comes to membership business models over the last 5 years.
So 5 years ago, when I was explaining to people that to business owners that they could apply the same principles that Netflix and LinkedIn and Amazon Prime were using to build long-term formal relationships with their customers, most people were kind of left scratching their heads like, yeah, they're so big though, and they have a different product and they're digital natives and it wouldn't work for me. So I wrote The Membership Economy to point out all the similarities across different kinds of businesses of different sizes, different industries, public, private. And that's really the purpose of the membership economy. Now, 5 years later, if I say to somebody like on an airplane or whatever, I'm a subject matter expert on memberships and subscription pricing, they don't scratch their head anymore. They say, I could use your help. I have this problem. I have a subscription. We're having trouble acquiring people, even though the people love us once they're in, or the other way around. We have all these people that join and then they cancel before we actually make a profit. We have really bad economics, unit economics, or we're having trouble engaging them, or they're not seeing our good features. And so I wrote the Forever Transaction to help people actually build out the model to solve the problems that I see at all of the different stages in building a long-term relationship. So what do you do when you're starting out? What can you expect when you're trying to scale something up? And then what do you do if, let's say you've had a gym and you've been around for 30 years? How do you continue to iterate to attract tomorrow's members while maintaining the relationships you have with the people who've been most loyal?
So let's dive into that in a little bit more detail, because obviously we have the FBP family is made up of fitness owners from right across the globe. And I think they would be fascinated to hear a little bit more about that, about if you were in the shoes of a fitness owner who is running a membership model business. What do they need to think about in 2020 and beyond to have that business continue to be successful? Are there any tips that you could give us?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is to consider your business from your members' perspective. So 30 years ago, their gym membership or their fitness membership and maybe their newspaper might have been their only subscriptions. And today they might have 10, 12, 20 or more different subscriptions. So they're very sophisticated about what a subscription is supposed to be like and how well they're supposed to be known in a membership. So they'll say things like, I don't know why you always ask me for this. When I'm a member, you should know who I am. You should know that I only do these classes and I never use the equipment. Or you should know that I never come in on Sundays. So there's a higher level of expectation. Consumers are sophisticated, they're picky, and they're tired of subscriptions. There's a little bit of subscription fatigue. And those are kind of the bad things. The good things that they can think about is that there's never been a better time to run a membership business. There's tons of software available. There are all kinds of service providers who really understand all the different pieces that make a membership work. All the things that you teach your FBP family, like it's not just, slap a subscription price over one feature. You have to think about all the features, all the benefits, who it's for, all of that.
Absolutely. So, one of the interesting things, Robbie, that has happened in the fitness industry, as you would be super aware of, in the last couple of years is we've seen the introduction of products like Peloton. For example, we've seen products come into the market like Mirror, all of these type of subscription-based equipment providers, I guess you'd say, or service providers. What type of effect would you say a subscription model like those businesses would have on a traditional gym membership from your perspective?
Well, as somebody who has both a gym membership and a Peloton, in spirit of true confession,
mm-hmm.
The Peloton, at least for me, is never going to be a substitute for the experience of connecting with other people in person, having an instructor watch me do whatever it is I do and offer corrections, the fun of being with other people, the 5 a.m. bunch or whatever. But they are trying to replicate a lot of that experience in an at-home product. So there still are communities of people that, people that are trying to lose weight, people that prefer a certain instructor, people that have a certain goal, like they're getting ready for a marathon. And the community, the way that they use Facebook is really marvelous. And obviously the built-in tablet on the bike and on the tread are really much more powerful than anything we've seen before. But what I would say to a gym owner, is it's pretty much what I actually say to almost any business owners, to take a step back and say, why do people come here? And they're probably saying it's the most convenient way and the most reliable way for me to get and stay fit, or to me to identify and achieve my fitness goals. This is the best, easiest, cheapest, most effective, whatever the word is, depending on the different business. And what you want to do as a business owner is take a step back and say, is this really true? Do I believe this? Like at this moment, is this the easiest way to get fit? And is Peloton easier? Maybe you're saying, well, we're not the easiest way, but we're the most predictable way, because we weigh you every week. We measure your progress. We encourage you. We call you when you don't show up. And all of those elements help you make sure that you stay on the narrow path. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And Robbie, I would like to understand a little bit more for anyone out there that hasn't been exposed to like a subscription model. And you particularly pointed out what a great Facebook experience you have with Peloton. Mm-hmm. And I'm really keen to understand what you mean by that. So from a consumer perspective, what is it that they are doing or that that particular model is doing that is so good, because maybe we can learn from that.
Yeah, absolutely. So they have, when you join Peloton, they encourage you to join the Facebook page. There's a Facebook page for the official Peloton group, and then there's a Facebook page for each individual instructor, and then there's an official one under that brand, and then there are goal-oriented pages. And there's a moderator for each one who I think must be just a customer, a subscriber themselves, who maintains the civility of the community. And also when there's a question about something that is really factual, they can pipe in. So if somebody says something like, I heard so-and-so was fired, she can pipe in and say, actually, they weren't fired. They've moved on, blah, blah, blah. Or actually, the new London studio is going to open on this date. But other than that, they just let it go. And there's a lot of really neat behaviors and things that have happened. One of them is they have a guy came up with this idea that on Fridays he has a happy hour, and he'll take a picture of himself holding a drink and saying, here, cheers to a week where I exercised every day, or cheers to just making it through the week. And then other people post pictures of themselves with their Friday at 5, and they're all over the world. And so you sort of feel, and not everybody's drinking alcohol, and some people are doing a dry January, and some people don't drink at all, and some people are sick. But it's just things like that where you actually feel like you start to get to know these people, and that they're celebrating with you, and they encourage you to brag and say, hey, I've lost 30 pounds, or hey, I just did my first marathon, or, whatever it is. But I think any gym can do this, even a very small, like a personal trainer sharing pictures, encouraging members to connect with each other, support each other, all of those kinds of things. Remembering the goal is for people to get and stay motivated, right? And to feel like the time they spend is as efficient as possible. So there's lots of ways to do that beyond the time that someone's actually in the studio. So those are some ideas.
Oh, I love that, Robbie. And as you were talking, my mind kept going back to that forever transaction concept and your new book that's coming out, because it really does promote quite an incredible connection doing things like that. And I was picturing the photos that you're referring to, and I love that concept. And it's quite amazing that despite the fact that all of those people aren't in the same physical location, there's still a way for them to connect on a virtual platform and feel that community of which you talk about.
Right. And you can do that in real life too. And I know probably many of the people listening already are going to say, oh, Robbie, we're already doing this. But, my sister and my dad see the same trainer. My sister is a CrossFitter. And my dad is a 77-year-old guy who goes to yoga 5 days a week and sees a trainer for lifting twice a week to keep his bones strong and stay healthy. But they're very different. My sister is she's a competitive athlete. And anyway, at this fitness studio where the trainer works, he keeps on the board how everybody's doing, all of his clients, and how much they're lifting. So my dad noticed that my sister, who's been going for 10 years, is lifting more than he's lifting. And it lit a fire under him. And they now leave each other little notes, even though, of course, we see each other at home or, at family events. There's so many ways to just be playful and connected and focusing on the relationships. And that's really often what provides the stickiness. In fact, I bet if many of your members, if you said, why did they stay? I bet a lot of those people would say, I stay because I love the people. I came for the workout. I came because it was near my office, but I stayed because these are my people.
Yeah, it's such an incredible connection that people have, with other people and with other members in our facilities. So, Robbie, what I'd like to have a look at is take, for example, one of our gym owners that has been in business for a little while, and they might have a great group of members, but they're recognizing that they need to start to think about what the future looks like and take into account kind of some of these lessons that you've already started to share with us. What advice or what tips would you give that gym owner for re-looking at their membership offering, maybe relaunching their membership offering if they're feeling as though maybe it's gotten a little bit stale?
Yeah. So this happens. This is actually one of the burdens of success in a membership model, right? Because you design something when you first start out, you come up with a model, whatever the classes you have, the equipment you have, the process you use. You know, I'm sure that these people spent a lot of time thinking about what's the best way to do this. And then people found it and said, this is great. And they settled in. And then you don't want to change it because it's working for the people who are there. But the very success that makes your current members happy and comfortable is sort of a turnoff for somebody coming in for the first time. So what I encourage people to do is listen to a chorus rather than just one part. So you don't want to just listen to your existing members and what they want. You want to listen to your brand new members. You want to listen to people who come check out your facility and don't sign up. You want to talk to people who may not even be aware that your gym exists, but in your mind, they're the perfect member, right? So for example, you might say, my next door neighbor, she's 25. She just moved here. She really wants to get back into fitness. She just had a baby. She should come to my gym. You want to talk to her and understand why she's not a member of your gym. Is it because she didn't know about it? Is it because she misunderstands what it is? Like she's like, oh yeah, I know that gym, but I think it's only for old people. Or I think, I know that gym, but I think it's just like a gym for big buff lifter guys. Or you say, no. So that's a communications problem, or it's a product problem, which is, oh yeah, I checked out your gym and whatever. I didn't, the classes seemed old fashioned. The equipment was shabby. The people were really cliquey. Nobody welcomed me at the front desk. And to really, if your goal is to acquire new members, you want to figure out who's your target new member and what is keeping them from joining. Is it, I never heard of it? Is it, I heard of it, but I have the wrong information, or I didn't get the right information to make me come try it? Or is it a product problem, which is, I understand what your program is and I don't like it. I don't like the people. I don't like the equipment. I don't like the classes. And then decide what to do about it. Do you want to, if it's a product problem, that's always most expensive and the most difficult. But if it's a product problem, you want to say, am I going to be able to attract enough members to achieve my goals over the next several years?
Robbie, I think that we all know if we want to find out what's happening with our current members, that's a fairly easy process. We can have conversations, we can send out surveys, but how can we actually physically or practically find out what non-members want from us or what they think? What type of recommendations do you have for actually collecting that information so that we've got that chorus of data that you talk about?
Yeah. So I would start by saying, who's your ideal new member, right? So already my ideal existing member, and a lot of times organizations that have been around say something like, oh, well, he's 52 and he's been working out with us for 10 years. You're like, okay, well, there aren't going to be any more of those. You'd say, well, who's your ideal person for tomorrow? And so let's say that you say, well, this is really a great place for people who want a high level of service and the latest thing, right? Let's say that's your value proposition. It's, we always have the newest thing and everything, the locker rooms are gorgeous and the equipment is pristine and there's a smoothie bar and all that. So then you would say, okay, well, who is the person that is not a member that should be a member? How would I describe them? And then you can do two things. One of them is, where do they hang out? So I can go just talk to them, right? You don't have to be fancy. Like if that's who you want, you're like, okay, well, I would go to the really expensive coffee bar down the street, right? Or I would go to such and such a party. And like the next time I go to this party, I'm going to ask people what they're doing for gyms. And then the other thing is to get as close as you can to the actual moment of acquisition. So of people who walk into your gym and check it out, what happens to the ones who don't sign up and how are they different than the ones who do? So really starting to gather data kind of at the front desk and making it safe for people to tell you the truth. So if somebody tells you, I'm not joining because it's too expensive, they're lying. What they really mean is, for the amount of money you want, I can do better things. I don't think that there's enough value for me to justify this. So you really want to give them permission. Yeah, I understand. So and so here's a good question, right? So if I drop the price by 10%, then you would join right away, right? And then they'll laugh, right? And they'll say, well, no, it's other things too. And then they'll tell you the truth, right? It's too far away. None of my friends are members. It's really intimidating in the weight room. I tried, like my husband joined this one gym and he said, at the time I go, all the equipment is full and people hog the equipment. And my husband's not a very pushy person. And he's like, so I kind of stand there and nobody offers to let me work my way in. And then I go home and all I've done is the neck machine, right? Because that was available.
Yeah.
And so, that would be a good thing to know if you're the gym owner, because you might say, yeah, that's how we work here. You got to just be assertive. We're a low cost, or you say, wow, if we want to attract people who want a high level of service, we need to be more proactive about managing the culture in the facility. So those are some of the things so to summarize, the things that I would recommend are, number one, get really good at understanding why people come in your door and walk out without joining, or join and then failure to launch and leave without fully engaging. And then working your way back, if you, let's say, well, you have a group that you want to reach where you're like, we don't even get those people in the door, I would go to where they are. And, as a person living in a community, I think with 2 or 3 phone calls, you can probably find somebody who fits your prototype who might be willing to convene a focus group for you. And you spring for the pizza, or I guess in your case, maybe something a little healthier.
A bowl of apples. Or no, I really appreciate you going into such practical detail, because I think the reality is that we can quite easily contact and speak to our current members, but it can sometimes feel a little bit more challenging, or sometimes even intimidating to go and speak to people who are not members, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say another thing that you can do is, any member has friends and relatives who are not members. And so you can even invite your member. Like, let's say that your goal is you want to get college kids. Let's say there's a college in your city and you want university students to join, right? There's a pretty good chance that some of the people that come to your gym might work at the university, or might have children at the university, or might have recently graduated from the university. So, as a gym owner, you could just be wandering through the gym and say, hey, I just had a quick question for you. You work at the university, don't you? We are not getting any students in, and I don't know why. Do you have any idea? Just see what they say. It'll give you some ideas. That's qualitative research. And then what you do is, once you start to develop some hypotheses, like, oh, I've talked to 6 people and 3 of them say it's too expensive, and 2 of them say it's too far away, and 4 of them say it's a bunch of old people when they walk in and it doesn't look cool, right? So then you say, well, how would I test each one of those? And it's usually with a survey, right? Where you can just send out the survey to 100 people that are all university students. And for that, you can hire a university student to go do it.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are some more ideas.
I love those practical suggestions. And I just want to touch back on something that you mentioned earlier, which I think is super important. And that is giving our sales team and our welcome desk team the permission to probe a bit deeper into that person that comes and does the club tour but doesn't sign up. And I thought that was really important, because I know myself, I've just moved to a new part of Australia, and when I came here, one of the things that I did was went around a whole number of gyms and did some club tours just to get to know the area and get to know the gyms. But nobody probes further than, so once you sort of don't join, there's no additional questions being asked. There might be in some places, but in my experience, there weren't. So I think that giving permission or requesting our sales team or our welcome desk team to ask those extra questions at the point that prospect doesn't become a member, I think is a really great suggestion for us to be able to collect that very important data that you speak about, Robbie. Now, I want to just give everyone a really good indication about the Forever Transaction, so that they really have a feel for the book. And then if you can share that with us to start off with, maybe you can give us a few couple of quick tips of how a gym business at the moment, a fitness business, can stay relevant, and any extra tips that you can give us on how they can create a forever transaction with their members.
Yeah. So the book is divided into three parts. First part is if you're just getting started. So this might be, you're a personal trainer working in somebody else's gym, and you have a vision of the kind of business you want to create and the kind of people you want to serve. It may be, so that's kind of the first one. And maybe that you're scaling it. So you've got that, and maybe you're running it out of your home gym, and you're doing some kind of a park course with your clients, and you want to build a facility and you want to do something bigger. And then the last one is, how do you stay relevant, which is kind of what we've been talking about a lot. So the first thing is to know where you are and understand kind of what challenges that you're going to face, because they're pretty consistent, right? I mean, most people face the same kinds of issues at each phase. The thing in a forever transaction is that you have designed something that is optimized around a long-term goal for a member or avoiding a problem for the member. And whatever features you offer them are designed to help them achieve that goal. So very few people go to a gym to take a class. That might be the reason they walk in the first time, but they're going there because they have an aspiration to improve their fitness, to, get back in shape, stay fit, take care of themselves, give themselves a treat. Whatever that reason is, if you focus on that, you might get better ideas about how to evolve, because you keep saying to yourself, okay, is this the best way? Is this truly the most efficient way for somebody to get and stay fit? Or is this truly the most fun way? Is this fun? If we're supposed to be a fun place, how are we making it fun, right? So I think that the single tip that I would offer is to get really clear on what your forever promise is to your members, right? Is it about luxury? Is it about, the least expensive way? Is it the most time efficient way, the most fun way? And then do all of the experiences, all of the customer touch points align with that? Is it fun to check in? Is it fun to work out? Do you meet friends? Does it look fun? Because a lot of times organizations say that there's something, but the actual experience, your members would disagree. They would not agree that it's, really solving their problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Robbie, I just love everything that we have covered off already today. And we've obviously talked about a huge scope so far. So I thought the best fit inspiration that we can chat about today is really the three main messages or takeaways that you want to leave the FBP family with today in relation to the forever transaction.
Get your pen ready now for Keep Me's Fit Bizpiration.
Now let's return to Robbie as she shares three key messages about the forever transaction.
So the first thing is, know who your best member is. Be able to recognize them and understand what your promise is to them. Is this, an inexpensive way and a quick way for somebody to stay basically fit? Or is this an elite fitness athletic program or some combination of the two? Who are you trying to reach? Who is that perfect person who would get the most value on an ongoing basis? That's number one. Number two, optimize your offerings around that person's goals. Thinking broader than just what equipment or what classes, but the full experience. Do you follow up with them? Do you give them a workout buddy? What happens if they stop showing up? Do you say, that's great because we are still getting paid? Or do you try to understand where they lost motivation? And then the third thing is to listen to the full choir and not just your current members. So that means that in addition to understanding and making changes based on what your current members are telling you, try to talk to people who've canceled. So longtime members who've left. So former members, try to talk to people that have come into your trial program, completed the trial, and then canceled. So sort of a failure to launch group. And people who walked in the front door, did the tour, and walked right out and never came back. And then even talk to some people who work out and don't work out with you. And do that wherever you can. It doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to be, you don't need to hire a marketing team to do it. Just start by asking questions and being curious.
Keep Me, smarter member retention. KeepMe.ai.
Robbie, what a pleasure it's been to catch up with you once again. 5 years on from the first time that we actually spoke and you launched the membership economy. Now I want to encourage everyone to go out and get their copy of the Forever Transaction. Where's the best place for them to go to purchase the book?
You can get the book anywhere books are sold. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, independent booksellers, everywhere. It's pretty easy to find. And I have forevertransaction.com. You can always go there and find a reseller near you.
Excellent. And needless to say, we're going to put all of the contact details for Robbie and her books in today's show notes. Thank you so much for joining us again on the show.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
A huge thank you to Robbie for joining us on the show today. Now here's a message from our podcast partner, Jim Sales. Jim Sales allows you to plan, implement, and monitor a proactive sales strategy that's automated and uniform. You can give your sales team the tools they need to capture, nurture, and convert new members, which means it's easier than ever before to grow your member base. Make sure you head over to jimsales.net to find out more information.
Quickfire 5.
This week's Quickfire 5 guest is Simon Flint, the CEO of Evolution Wellness. Simon, welcome along. It is such an honour to have you on the show today.
Hi, Chantal. Nice to see you.
Great to catch up. Now we're going to kick things off with our Quickfire 5 questions. Tell everyone, why do you do what you do?
Oh, that's easy for me. Working in the fitness and wellness industry is really a privilege. It's such a high energy business. It's very motivating. It's constantly changing. And, sometimes I think, what else might I like to do one day? And it's quite tough to imagine being as motivated in another industry by comparison. So I think, you're in the same business yourself. You know what it feels like. It's just so easy. That's why I do what I do. And I see an ocean of opportunity ahead of us. It seems to get, the opportunity seems to get bigger every day, just as, even as we're growing and maybe getting a little bit better day by day, the opportunity is getting bigger faster than we are. So that's why I do what I do.
And tell me, Simon, are there any rituals that help you become better at what you do?
Oh, I can't. Well, despite what you might see behind me, I'm not necessarily one for rituals per se. But one thing that, particularly at the time that we're speaking in this thing that we call COVID-19, and we're hopefully towards the tail end of it. Something that I believe in more and more now is two very simple, basic things: move and sweat every day. No matter what it is, if you're not able to get a full workout in, just make sure you find some time to move and sweat. And I'm really pleased that I've managed to keep the discipline during this lockdown time to get up early every morning and get outside and do exactly that. A minimum 10,000, 20,000 steps a day, and to make sure I sweat. Clears the mind, helps you sleep better, metabolize better. So not a ritual, but I think it's a principle that really resonates right now.
I could not agree more. I think it's such an important part of every day. Thank you for sharing that with us. Now, I know before you and I got on the call today, we briefly mentioned Microsoft Teams, and we're obviously recording on Zoom at the moment. Are there any particular apps or systems that you would use to stay in control of your workload?
I wish that I had some sage advice for the audience here. And in that respect, I probably don't. I use a laptop and the typical desktop tools like anybody else, but I'm kind of old school. I keep a to-do list, and as basic as that might be, if I have an idea or someone speaks to me and mentions something that I think, it's got to go on the list, because at least that means I don't go to sleep with that thing just whirring around. If I know it's on my list, I know I'm going to get to it. So it's not technology, it's not an app, but it works.
Oh, look, let me show you something which all the listeners know this, but this is my technology, my whiteboard. So I am with you on the old school. I am totally the same.
I'm glad I'm not.
makes a big difference. So how about this one, Simon? You just mentioned, writing things down. Do you have any favorite books or even podcasts or blogs that are your go-to that you'd recommend to the listeners?
I'm a big fan, again, of some books that have been written even 20, 30 years ago, some basic books on leadership. Actually, I'll steal this opportunity just to share about a book that I read last month, which is quite a specialized topic, but it's one that I'm personally very curious about. And it's on the topic of systemic inflammation in the body and the way that it leads to disease. It's a book called The Plant Paradox by Dr. Stephen Gundry. And whilst that's not a book that I'd recommend to anyone, I actually think there's probably things in that many people would benefit from. It's personal to me because I had a few injuries that became chronic and compounded over time, and they didn't tend to, I'm speaking about a knee injury actually, and it didn't tend to heal as well as I felt it should. I had 3 procedures on it and so on. And someone recommended this book from my team actually, and it had helped a friend or a partner of theirs. And I found it absolutely fascinating. And it was the essence of it is the paradox. It's called the plant paradox, and it's about the paradox with the hidden dangers of so-called healthy foods that can cause systemic inflammation, which ultimately can lead to disease and weight gain. And gut health is really at the core of it, and the microbiome. So I'm quite curious about things that help us as a business. We're Evolution Wellness, and I'm quite curious to learn more in that area. But this one has been really good. I did cheat a little bit. I got halfway through, and then I switched across to the audio book. Listened to it while I was outside exercising, which again is an efficient. Oh, there you go. Audio book. There's the app. That's the efficient way to learn while you exercise. But I would recommend that to anyone who's curious about complete well-being, or deep health, as some people call it, because the gut is such a big part of it, and it's a fascinating read. The Plant Paradox by Dr. Stephen Gundry.
I think we will get a lot of interest in people reading that one. I think that so many of us are interested not only from a professional perspective of our trainers out there that perhaps can help their clients, but from a personal perspective as well. So that's a great recommendation. Thank you so much. Now, just give us a quick bit of an insight into the topic that we're going to be focusing on during your main interview.
I like to talk about leadership culture and performance management. This is something that's really important to me. And over the years, I've been doing this for something like 26 years now. I've realized the importance of a go-to way of working has been really critical for getting the best out of any individual. We have an organization of 7,000 people now, and to be able to have a way of working and a set of go-to tools that are ours, but they're anchored in very, very solid philosophies, that's what I'd like to focus on.
Well, having heard just a little bit about this before we caught up today and seen a little bit of a sneak peek, I feel as though this is a topic that is going to be of great interest to the FBP family, to all of our leaders, and also all of our aspiring leaders out there to learn from your experience, Simon. So thank you for joining us for the Quick Fire 5. Thanks to Simon for joining us today, and a special invitation for you all to tune in next week for that interview. Not only because it is quite frankly one of my most favourite interviews of 2020, but also because it's officially my last weekly episode hosting the show. So I would love you to jump on and take a listen to that interview. This week's Rewind segment was one of our intensive episodes from 2019. It was called How to Plan the Ultimate Gym Member Journey, and my special guest was John Naster. During the episode, we discuss where to get started planning your gym member journey. He talks us through 4 stages. Stage 1, unconsciously incompetent. Stage 2 and 3, consciously incompetent to consciously competent. Stage 4, unconsciously competent. And he also shares with us your member journey toolkit. It is a sensational episode. So to take a listen to that episode, go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com and search for episode number 256. Enjoy and happy listening. Before we finish off today, a quick reminder that of course all the resources and the links for today's episode can all be found at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Thank you to our foundation partner, Active Management. Active Management are a fitness business coaching company that help clients all over the world. And this month, I have a business tip for you all. Join the Active Management Facebook community. It's an amazing group and you'll meet like-minded fitness owners and managers from all over the world. All you need to do is go to facebook.com/groups/Active Management Community. It's a highly engaging community where JT from Active Management shares loads of resources. Things like photos from inside gyms, reasons to exercise, a monthly book club, challenges, and even ideas under $50. It's free and it is an awesome community. Once again, just go to facebook.com/groups/Active Management Community. Thank you all for joining me once again for this week's episode. Enjoy your week ahead. Do not forget to join me next week. And remember, what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.